and our target audience generally are not the same. The target market is who we want to buy our product or service. The target audience is only who we want to reach with our ads. So you might be like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Up until now, everything made sense, right? What do you mean? How could that be? Well, so take, for example, your target market might be women. Okay, it's great. So you have a product that's specifically designed for women. You want to sell your product to all women. Now the question is, as sophisticated business people and marketers, how do we communicate to women everywhere in the U.S.? How do we connect with them? Now in the U.S., we know there's a lot of diversity. That's not the same in all markets. So I'm careful to mention the market is the U.S. because in other markets, the markets are very homogeneous. But in the U.S., you have African American, Caribbean American, Hispanics, Asians. Ideally, we would have a campaign that's customized for each one of those groups of women. And those are significant segments in the US. Those are not, when we talk about, like, for example, niche marketing, those segments that we mentioned in the US, those are not what we would consider to be niches. Right? In the US, for example, blacks represent 35 million people. That's not a niche. 35 million people, right? That's a lot of people. So wouldn't it make sense to develop advertising campaigns that those viewers can connect with? And it's going to be more relevant to their culture, their lifestyle, their interests. And so there are differences along those lines that require us to develop unique campaigns for each of those different target audiences. So in that case, a different target audience would be Hispanic women. That's one target audience. And we have a campaign for them, and we advertise on different television channels and run our ads in different magazines. It's not one size fits all. One size fits all is not the recipe for success. We need to customize our products, our services to meet the needs of individual consumer groups. I was in the Armani shop in Fifth Avenue, and I usually don't wear hats. You might think that I would, but I usually don't. But I decided, it would be cool to have a hat, to wear a hat, right? Change my profile a little bit. So I was in the Armani shop, and I saw a hat. It was like nice. So I figured, I don't know what compelled me. I said, I'm going to try it on. So I pulled it this way, and then I pulled it that way, and this way, and that way. And then it took like 5 minutes, but then I had to admit that this hat did not fit me. So I said, well, that's kind of weird. So I said, all right, I need to get a bigger hat. But let me check to see what size this hat is first. So I turned the hat inside out, and I look, and there's a label that says, one size fits all. Well, one size does not fit all, okay? Now, what about all those customers that can't wear that hat? I think that's a good illustration of we need to customize our products. Whether, like here's another example. This is actually really brilliant in some ways. Well, it's brilliant from a manufacturing standpoint, but it's not brilliant from a marketing standpoint. Henry Ford, he said that you could have any Model T Ford you want as long as it's in black.
Wasn't it in color?
he wanted his idea, and this makes sense. For those of you who took 31.4 operations manager, it makes sense to simplify the manufacturing process. You only offer one model, so there's no Echo, Corolla, Camry, Solara, Avalon, right? Just one model. It's the Model T. And there's no Model A, B, C, or D, just Model T, and it only comes in one color. Not green, white, blue, orange, yellow, dark blue, dark yellow. Nope, none of that, just black. Now, I can tell you that that's brilliant from a manufacturing standpoint, because you simplify, or in that case, you pretty much eliminate complexity in the manufacturing process, and you could achieve great efficiency. But consumers have different needs. Like, for example, some consumers need a vehicle that's larger. They have bigger families. They might have 3, 4, 5 children. How do you transport the family if the Model T is a small car? And some families, they might be newlyweds. They don't need a big vehicle. And as shocking as it is, not everybody likes the same colors, right? And some people have a favorite color for this season, and next season they have a different favorite color. So, is that a way to give consumers a reason to buy? You change the colors of the vehicles, right? You have the vehicle 3 years. How do you get consumers to buy a new vehicle? How do you get consumers to buy a new iPhone? What's going to get them to buy a new iPhone?
Add new features.
Right, you add new features. So first it was the 8 gigabyte, then it's the 16 gigabyte, now it's the 32 gigabyte, and just like they did with the iPod, they changed the capacity of the iPod, right? More gigabytes. Then you had a black and white screen. Then you could have a color screen. Then just keep adding more features. One of the things that's very different in their strategy with the iPod versus the iPhone is their pricing strategy. The iPod, they never changed the price points. In an ideal world, right, we wouldn't have to compete on price. It's value, right? We don't want to lower the price. What they did with the iPod was they kept enhancing the value. So it wasn't a skimming strategy. A skimming pricing strategy is you start at a high price and then lower the price over time. A penetration pricing strategy is you introduce the product at a low price and either, well, I don't know that you could lower the price much further than that, right? That's kind of like you're as low as you can go. But one of the things is that you can't increase the price after that. That's the problem with price-related promotions, is that everybody thinks that orange juice is 2 for $5. And when it's not 2 for $5, nobody wants to buy. But half a gallon of Tropicana orange juice is not $2.50. It's $4. And that's the problem with price-related promotions. A better promotion would be to not lower the price, but give 20% more at no extra charge. Now, the perceived value of the product is not changed, right? You haven't eroded the price point. So what they did with the iPod, which was really very smart, is that they never lowered the price points. They kept the same price points, the $399, $400, $300, $250, $200. But the way they kept the price points the same is that they just kept adding more value, right? Like you said, more features, more benefits, so they wouldn't have to lower the price. So that their average selling price didn't change. But what they did do is they did